And now let's take you to New Delhi, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi is currently meeting the Singaporean Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, who is on an official visit to New Delhi. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Prime Minister of Singapore, there you can see the visuals coming in from New Delhi, where both of them are meeting. Later in the day, they are also scheduled to address the press. Signing of key MOUs is also on the agenda. Well, Lawrence Wong is on an official visit to India from the 2nd till the 4th of September at the invitation of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And Prime Minister Wong's introductory visit coincides with the 60th anniversary of the establishment of Singapore-India diplomatic relations, and it further reaffirms Singapore and India's mutual commitment to strengthen its ties. Now in New Delhi, Prime Minister Wong will also call upon President Draupadi Murmu, and he has already met Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There you can see the visuals of both the countries exchanging a very warm relationship, which is very much evident on our screens right now. These are the visuals which are coming in from New Delhi, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi is holding a very healthy dialogue, and the picture looks very, very positive in New Delhi, where both the Prime Ministers are meeting each other, enhancing with a vision to enhance the bilateral relationship. There will be different sectors which will remain under the key focus areas later in the day, and in an hour from now, key MOUs will also be signed between both the nations, which is India and Singapore. And these are the visuals which are coming in. Prime Minister Wong, the Singaporean Prime Minister, is currently accompanied by Minister for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, Acting Minister for Transport and Senior Minister of State for Finance, Jeffrey Shaw, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs and for Trade and Industry, and the officials from Prime Minister's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Trade and Industry, Ministry of Transport and Ministry of Digital Development and Information. So there you can see the visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting the Singaporean Prime Minister. Well, this is Prime Minister Wong's first visit to India in his capacity as the Singapore's Prime Minister. And apart from all the delegation, he is also accompanied by his spouse, Mrs. Lawrence Wong, along with the high-level delegation, including the cabinet ministers and the senior officials, which we just named. And during the visit, both of them, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Wong, are scheduled to hold bilateral discussions today. So the bilateral discussions will be taking place today, and apart from that, a joint press statement will be delivered by both the respective Prime Ministers of India and Singapore. Later in the day, Prime Minister Wong will call on Honorable President Srimati Draupadi Murmu today. Before that, he met External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar today. Well, if we talk about Singapore as a country, it is an important partner for India, including in India's Act East policy. So during the visit of Prime Minister Wong in New Delhi, bilateral ties will be elevated to a comprehensive strategic partnership. And to get you more on this, I'm joined by DD India correspondent on Foreign Affairs, Akshay Dongre. Akshay, we can see the visuals of Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. It is a very positive imagery that is going across the entire globe. Tell us how this particular visit will elevate the bilateral relationship of both the countries, Akshay.
Well, Deepika, yes, you're absolutely right that, it's a significant moment that the Prime Minister of Singapore is here. He met the Prime Minister, our Prime Minister just now, and it was exactly 365 days back. Last year, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Singapore, where he was inking several agreements. He was signing all of these memorandums of understanding of cooperation between the two countries, which has brought both of the countries together. Now, to also, to tell our viewers about the significance of Singapore, a very small island nation in the Southeast Asian region, is that it is the largest source of foreign direct investment to India. Singapore has been a friendly country, has been a country that has been quite seriously investing in India. In fact, much larger than the largest economies in the world, Singapore has been there as far as a partner that has had faith in the Indian capabilities as well as the investments that it has made in India. And that's the reason why the FDI from Singapore is the largest source of FDI for Indians and for the Indian government. So that is one point. As far as some of the critical areas that Prime Minister has been emphasizing on, like the artificial intelligence, semiconductors, advanced manufacturing, quantum computing. Singapore is one country that is a neighboring country and also mastered in all of these technologies. To have an understanding about the kind of growth that Singapore has achieved, it has always been a thing of motivation for the rest of the world. It is a country that has a per capita income of about $90,000. That is in fact larger than, that is even in fact higher than countries like the US. You have to take into account that a small island nation that was in fact a swampy country that had no development has transformed itself into one of the world's most important trade locations. So Singapore and India have had cultural ties, they have had historic ties. The name Singapore in itself comes from the word sing, that is the lion. So we have had historical ties as well as now moving to more significant trade ties as far as the relation between the two countries are concerned. So that is what we are looking at right now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting with Prime Minister Wong, a new chapter in the relationship between the two countries, starting as far as stepping this relationship and partnership to a next level.
Also, Akshay, when we talk about the FDIs, the trade and investment that both the countries share, also the Act East policy is under the limelight when we talk about both the countries. How is it going to nourish India's vision in that regard?
Well, the Act East policy is one of the paramount policies of the government of India as far as its foreign policies are concerned. You have to take into account that while FDIs are great, but also cooperation at a bilateral level is something that helps countries form a stronger bond. Countries form stronger trade ties, economic ties, and that is where Singapore has been quite handy. So it's a great movement. And exactly a year back, the kind of agreements that India signed with Singapore are now starting to yield results, and that is perhaps the reason why the Prime Minister of Singapore has said that their confidence in India is proven by the kind of significant outcomes that it has given. So that is why perhaps we are seeing this kind of enthusiasm between the ties of the two countries. So, just last year, Prime Minister Modi was in Singapore. Then we had the President of Singapore arrive a few months back, and now the Prime Minister is coming. So we can expect that large things are on the cards, large investments and trade ties, cooperation between the two countries is on the cards. And both the countries are looking at each other quite seriously as potential partners in a sense that can be enhanced from the current partnership.
Indeed, Akshay, and also when we talk about it in the first half of the day, he also met External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, and thereafter Dr. S. Jaishankar, the External Affairs Minister, stated that he appreciates Prime Minister Wong's encouragement for strengthening India-Singapore ties. And not only this, he said that Prime Minister Modi and Singapore's Prime Minister will chart a roadmap for the contemporary ties of the two nations. And later in the day, we are also expecting the MOUs to be signed. Throw some light on how the sectors will be improvised between both the nations through such meetings. Akshay.
Well, Singapore is a country that's an island nation, we can say. So as far as the maritime economy of Singapore, it is highly advanced. The tourism sector, despite being a small country, in fact, to give an perspective, Singapore is almost, half the size of Delhi. So it's just that. However, still the kind of strides that Singapore has made is quite significant. So if you look at things that India can get from Singapore, it is a maritime trade. It can learn, obviously, the experiences that we can get is maritime economy. Then we can also look at tourism, where both countries can learn from each other. Then management of resources in terms of tourism. There are the key areas where Prime Minister's focus has especially been. That includes semiconductors, that includes advanced manufacturing, and these were the talk of town. In fact, when Prime Minister visited Singapore the last year, he also visited a semiconductor manufacturing factories. He himself went. He saw the kind of strides that Singapore has made and the kind of achievements that it has gotten, rivaling some of the best countries in the world. And in fact, being one of the best, India can get experience experience from that sector, whereas Singapore can further enhance ties in terms of education and health with India. There can be a memorandum of understandings on sports ties, on scholarships of students that wish to visit Singapore. So, the ties at this point in time, especially, Deepika, are going great, and the testimony to these, to what I'm saying is the very fact that both the prime ministers are not only constantly communicating but also visiting each other's country, trying to strengthen the ties between the two civilizations.
All right, thank you so much, Akshay, for joining us and bringing us a rounded perspective on Singapore Prime Minister's visit to New Delhi, strengthening diplomatic ties, especially on the occasion of 60th anniversary of India-Singapore diplomatic ties. It's time to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Yep.